Let's do this.
All right, everybody.
It's Wednesday, my dudes. You are watching The Sweat presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Lazia, rolling solo here for the next 55 minutes because Jessie Cofield has rabies, but she will be back tomorrow. Do not worry. Anywho, what's coming up in this show? The Gojo gang is here. Plus, we're going to dive into the sportsbook and DFS side of the NFL. The World Cup is on the menu and PGA Tour. But let's get cooking with a 13-game slate around Das Association. RotoWire's Nick Whalen. Let's go, DraftKings contributor, Darian Thorne. Look at him. He's smiling. He's happy today because his favorite baseball team, the Blue Jays, just hired Don Mattingly as their bench coach. Congratulations, Garian.
You know, every young boy grows up dreaming that their favorite baseball team will hire Don Mattingly as a bench coach, and I'm just so glad that I got to see it. It really means a lot.
Dude, do you remember when Mr. Burns cut Mattingly from the team because he wouldn't he wouldn't shave off the sideburns?
Dude, Blue Jays Twitter the last 24 hours has just been 3 Simpsons gifs over and over and over again.
We got Billy behind the roaming camera here in studio. He is extremely happy, and I know he's shocked that I brought up a Simpsons reference there, Billy. You're welcome, pal. Let's get your favorite NBA DK Sportsbook plays now, Garrett Barrett. Start with your favorite, a favorite you are backing tonight on the money line.
Well, we just talked about my favorite baseball team. I guess we can talk about my favorite basketball team as well. To be fair, when you're looking to back someone on the money line, you got to find a small favorite. And the smallest favorite on the board right now are the Toronto Raptors as road favorites against the Pelicans. A lot of moving pieces for the Pelicans right now. I guess one big moving piece, the status of CJ McCollum for this game. He's questionable with conditioning. It's really a tough one to parse out. I feel like most guys do miss that first game coming off the COVID list because of conditioning. Although CJ immediately went to questionable, so there's a chance he plays. He could be on a minutes restriction. There's a lot to consider there. But I think the more important piece of this puzzle is simply Pascal Siakam is back for the Raptors. And it's really hard to quantify just how important Siakam has been for the Raptors this season. They're 6-4 with a top 10 net rating in the NBA when Siakam is playing this season. They're 10.8 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the court versus when he's off the court so far this season. They shoot like 13% better from 3-point range just because of the gravity and his playmaking ability. Like, he really was playing like a top 10 guy in the NBA before his injury. And he's crucial to the success of this team. So I think with the Raptors essentially back at full strength, with the Pelicans not nearly at full strength, obviously Ingram is not going to be playing in this contest tonight, already ruled out. I think at minus 115, there's a pretty reasonable chance the Raptors can take down this game.
Waylon, hook me up with a favorite you're backing tonight on the money line.
Yeah, Gary had said it. You got to find a relatively small spread here. I'd love to throw out like the Celtics at minus 410 on the money line with like 9 guys on the injury report for the Miami Heat, but obviously not a ton of value there. I'm looking at one of the kind of middle of the slate games. We got the Grizzlies at the Minnesota Timberwolves. Memphis, a 2.5-point favorite in this game. You can get them at minus 140 on the money line at DraftKings. This is a Timberwolves team that, regardless of their injury situation, has been really, really difficult to trust night to night. You never know what you're going to get. They're 20 games in. Still feels to me like they haven't really gelled. And now you lose Karl Anthony Towns. And look, there's a chance that maybe this helps them in the short term because there was this kind of my turn, your turn situation going on with Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. D'Angelo Russell would occasionally try to butt his way into that as well. So there's an argument to be made that now for the next 6 weeks, this is Anthony Edwards' team. But overall, that makes the Minnesota Timberwolves worse. I think in their first game without Karl Anthony Towns, there's going to be an adjustment period. The Timberwolves have not played well in these situations all year. They're a team that beats up on bad teams. They're just 1-5 against the spread as a dog this season. Grizzlies haven't been a great team on the road, but I think they're catching Minnesota at a really good time here.
Nick, how about an underdog getting enough points to consider backing tonight?
I like the Portland Trailblazers to cover 5.5 at the Lakers tonight. And yes, Portland comes in on the second night of a back-to-back. Lakers do have the slight rest advantage, so I get that. But a lot of the ATS numbers really like Portland here. They're 13-8 ATS overall. Lakers, of course, just 7-12 ATS. Portland, an NBA best 11-4 against the spread as an underdog. They're 9-3 against the spread on the road. I understand they still won't have Damian Lillard for this game, but I don't know what the Lakers have done to deserve this kind of respect against really any team at this point. I mean, they just lost at home to the lowly Indiana Pacers. I know they racked up some wins over the last couple of weeks, but if you dig into it, they beat the Spurs 3 times. They beat the Pistons in that span. They really haven't been able to do anything against respectable opponents. And even without Damian Lillard, like, the Portland Trailblazers have still found ways to hang in these games. So I don't know that Portland wins, but 5.5 is a little too much for me.
Yeah, especially recently in LA, really their last 21 meetings. Blazers 15-6 ATS, last 21 games with the Lakers in Los Angeles. What say you here, Gare Bear?
Yeah, I had 2 teams written down. One were the Trailblazers, and the other was the Clippers, who are right now getting 7 points against the Jazz. I don't know if Danny Ainge activated the tanking microchips he placed in every single Jazz player about 2 weeks ago. I know he's popping champagne bottles right now because the Jazz are who we thought they were. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games. Their defense has been absolutely atrocious. They are giving up 119.6 points per 100 possessions across that 10-game span. I know the Clippers are missing some really talented players, but the kind of funny thing about this game is when you take away Kawhi Leonard and Paul George from the Clippers, you're basically left with a very similar kind of roster to the Jazz, a roster full of really good third and fourth options. So I think these teams are really similar as currently constructed. I can't believe the Jazz are getting 7 points. That just seems like a lot of respect for, again, a Jazz team that has been nowhere near as good as it was to begin the season. They're crashing back down to earth. I'll take the Clippers and the 7 points here.
Gary Bear, how about your favorite total on the board? Pacers, Kings at a slate high 242. So that's 10 points clear of the next game.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised about the disparity between that game and Oklahoma City, San Antonio. I know there isn't the dynamic scoring piece on San Antonio's side, and obviously we have to wait and find out whether or not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to play through a questionable tag tonight. That could have huge ramifications for the offensive viability of the Thunder. But you're also just dealing with 2 of the 7 teams in the NBA that happen to be operating at over 102 possessions per 48 minutes. Just high pace on both sides of this matchup. The Spurs have the worst defensive rating in basketball. The Thunder are one of the 5 worst defensive teams across their last 5 games. I think bad defense is more important than good offense when you talk about hitting the over. And I think you really see that in particular with Oklahoma City. They are 9-2 to the over in their last 11 games. Obviously, you'd like SGA to be available for a game where you're projecting more than 232 points. But I do think if he's ruled out and this total falls to maybe 231, 230.5, I still like the over. I just think these are 2 terrible defensive teams, and this is going to be a really up-tempo matchup.
All right, Nick, what's your favorite total on the board, and which way are you leaning?
You know, I'm going to be a coward here. Take the under on Clippers Jazz sitting at 225 over at the DK Sportsbook. Clippers are going under 73% of the time this season. That is far and away the most in the NBA. Utah is about 50-50 on their over-unders. Obviously, 2 huge missing pieces yet again tonight for the LA Clippers in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. I mean, they're one of the few teams that can kind of weather those type of injuries because they are so deep. But, you know, essentially you just have a bunch of role players kind of combining to pick up the slack. That can provide a lot of variance night to night. And they are playing on the second night of a back-to-back. So maybe you expect a little bit of slippage offensively with tired legs. Clippers are already 28th in offense. That's even with Paul George playing, you know, more than half of their games so far. You take him away, don't feel any better about that. Utah's been a good offense, but as Gary had said, you know, those first 10 to 15 games are carrying a lot of weight there. They've slipped big time of late. So I think this could end up being a fairly ugly game where we just have 5 role players against 5 more role players on both sides.
Dudes, we have run out of time because we are tight on time, but enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I love both of you dearly. Right now, we need to take a break and prepare ourselves mentally and physically for the Gojo boys to join us next. All aboard the Mike White hype train? ? We will discuss after a quick timeout. All right, friends of this program, The Sweat, have become friends of another program, The Gojo Show. And now we're family. Every weekday, Mike and Brandon are dropping dimes, a.k.a. podcasts. They're talking sports and stuff and mayonnaise. You can find them on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio app, and more. And by more, I mean every Wednesday here on The Sweat. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Brandon, who tweeted on Sunday that you hate me. The hell's going on, pal?
I didn't appreciate Trevor Lawrence having his career game against my Ravens in the fourth quarter.
Well, grow up, bud. How about that? Huh? Mike, you would never tweet that you hated me.
No, in fact, you and I are aligned right now in supporting our dear friend and Bengals star wide receiver, Jamar Chase, in his quest to not get shamed for downing sideline glizzies during their game.
The hell's going on with that, dude? Respect all glizzy gobblers, any and all, whether you're on a sideline, in a kitchen, at a park, whatever. All right, the Jags certainly dodged a bullet, though, right, guys, by not drafting Zach Wilson last year. And I know y'all talked about the Jets benching him at length with Jesse last week on the show. And after last weekend, like, the Mike White hype train is absolutely chugging along. So, Golick, I'll start with you. The Jets should stick with this dude the rest of the way. You think that's an overreaction, or is that a reality here?
So I think it's an overreaction to say they should do that without any pause, right? They should absolutely ride him till the wheels fall off. They should absolutely stick with him until all of a sudden the play dips, and it should be a whoever they believe is best this week. I think Zach Wilson's going to end up having another shot. I think for Mike White, this is the perfect storm, and really made this a great timed move by Rob Saleh because of the opponent. The Bears aren't good, and so this was going to give everyone an opportunity to go out and feel good. They rushed for almost 160 yards in this game also, and so it showed Zach Wilson, hey, none of what Mike White did was out of your reach. It wasn't like it was a superhuman performance. It wasn't like it required ability that he didn't have. He went out there and took the easy plays that were there in that offense. He made a few of the hard ones that were required, and ultimately he did his job. And that's what they want Zach Wilson to do with infinitely more talent than Mike White has. And so I think at some point this season, as they get into a couple of tougher games coming up, we'll see an opportunity for Zach Wilson to go back out there and either prove people wrong and show them that he's improved, or cement the decision that the Jets are likely going to be figuring out a different version of their quarterback situation this offseason.
Brandon, people forget Mike White has a Nickelodeon MVP. That's quite important. Also, Robert Saleh saying we're week to week at quarterback. Like, how do you feel about the way he's handling this right now?
A lot of coaches have found success doing that. Brian Kelly is one of them.
Yep.
I think we've learned that the most important position behind the quarterback is a backup quarterback in week 12. And I think the Jets have a really, really good one. And let's not forget, Zach Wilson's not a bad one either. He's just ran into Bill Belichick a couple times because he's in the AFC East. Like, I think the situation that they're in is great because Zach Wilson definitely needs to get his mind right and get his gusto back with his teammates. And I think Mike White gives him everything he needs to chill, because we're going to see that Mike White ceiling eventually when he plays against a little bit more difficult defenses than the Bears, like Mike was talking about. But it's good to have two quarterbacks, and the Jets have two quarterbacks and a really, really good defense.
Yeah, man. What are they? At the Vikings, at the Bills, you're hosting the Lions, and you're hosting America's team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, which, speaking of that, like, Mike, what's another Week 12 storyline here that grabbed your attention? Trevor Lawrence's arrival, Aaron Rodgers' injury, Josh Jacobs going off, Russell Wilson's continued demise in Denver. What do you got?
Yeah, listen, as much as I do want to sit up here and wax poetic about Trevor Lawrence, who was one of my favorite quarterbacks in a while coming out of the draft, y'all are finally tapping into the goods there. I know it was against the Ravens, who do give up a lot of fourth quarter leads, but let's not get lost in the minutia there. I will say the Aaron Rodgers injury fascinates me because it sounds like, by all accounts, he is going to be out there against the Bears this weekend. They said they got good news on the MRI front, especially when it came to what they thought might have been a cracked rib initially, or a punctured lung, when they first looked at him during the game. I don't know if there's much reason to have Aaron Rodgers out there anymore. He's tough and he wants to be out there because he's a football player. I'm not begrudging him that. That's been traditionally and consistent with what Aaron Rodgers has been as a player. But this team is financially limited in their options with him going into next year. He's going to be there because they paid him too much money to have him not be. And so what's the best version of things for the Green Bay Packers? Nothing that happens this year. It's going to be about getting him healthy for next year, another year of seasoning on Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and this young wide receiver core, and then getting that young defense to step up and figuring out what you're going to do if Joe Barry is going to be the coordinator for you still on a side of the ball that has absolutely disappointed with the amount of star power you brought over there.
I mean, it's an absolute no-win situation for him. Like, Rodgers, you're right. Rodgers wants to play right now. Like, what are they going to do? Bench him and risk pissing off a player they still owe around $170 million to? Like, I don't know. Brandon, what about you? I noticed you took off your Ravens beanie. You're a smart man for doing that.
I'm trying to do a little bit of gaslighting here, just doing a little Zoom goofing. But what you got?
I'm asking you what another Week 12 storyline grabbed your attention.
Oh, I apologize. Josh Jacobs. Got to be.
Yeah.
Not only because of what he did on the ground and how he won that game, it really shows just how inept the Raiders are at making football decisions, not picking up his option. Like, I think this is a great storyline as we think about how Derek Carr and where Derek Carr will end up probably with the Lions next year. It just seems like the Raiders are under a microscope because they're a good football team that just makes bad decisions constantly. And Josh Jacobs having a career day, he the first time he won AFC Player of the Week with 303 scrimmage yards. I love what I see from him through the madness that is the Raiders season.
How about this, dudes? After a painful and toxic offseason for the Browns, Deshaun Watson will make his debut on Sunday. Mike, what are some realistic expectations for him this Sunday and really this season?
Well, I think one of the places I'm guarding my expectations is what I plan on hearing, because I don't expect anything that I hear coming out of Deshaun's mouth or the Browns' mouth to make me feel better about any of the process along the way. I don't expect to hear about contrition. I don't expect to hear remorse. And I don't expect to hear the things that would actually indicate that this is a second chance that we should support, or anything resembling a redemptive narrative. It is not that. So let's get it clear going into this weekend. As far as a football player, I don't know. The last time we saw him in the preseason, there definitely looked to be see some of the rust and attrition that had come from a chaotic offseason and, an end to his year last year. And so I think this is something that's probably going to take time, but we saw the shell of this Browns offense is good. Jacoby Brissett had done a really good job as the field general around an offensive line and a run game that's going to be the strength of that team. Amari Cooper, when he's not dropping big moment passes in that passing game, is still one of the most lethal route runners in the sport. And so you've got the things there that are going to make a quarterback's life easier in the short term. But I think this is going to be something that probably requires more time in the football sense.
All right, Brandon, where do you sit on this, man? He hasn't played a football game in what feels like a bajillion days here.
I was on the side that he should probably sit out this entire season. So I feel like he should continue to sit out some games. But as far as the Browns, they got two good quarterbacks right now. And one hasn't played in a very long time, but when he did play, he was in the MVP race and he was one of the top 5 quarterbacks. And Jacoby Brissett is, like I said, a very great backup. And Nick Chubb is the best running back in the NFL right now. So I just think that the Browns are in a position to really make a push, even without Deshaun Watson. I just don't know how we're going to get a chance to see him. Is they're going to do series? Is they're just going to make sure that Jacoby Brissett just sits like Zach Wilson did? Like, I'm not interested in the drama around the quarterback position, especially with Deshaun Watson at the helm.
Yeah, again, I think right now it's all about setting up the Browns for success in 2023. They went out and grabbed him because they've been desperate for talent at that quarterback position forever. Maybe the rest of the season is just really this trial run. But let's go to the college game here, guys. Let's go to the college game because Michigan drops a fat deuce on Ohio State. Tough loss for your boys at USC, who cracked the top 4 now in the college football playoff rankings. South Carolina upsets. Who was that? Clemson?
Clemson.
Yeah. New faces in new places as well. A lot of new coaches now being named head coaches with other teams around the country. A lot of headlines to keep track of here. So which one is the most interesting to you, Brandon?
Really, this college football playoff in the rankings and what the committee did. We talked about on the podcast today. This is a really, really good, solid top 4, and we can expect some good football out of them. I think what I like mostly is that the teams are constructed very differently, with Jim Harbaugh and Kirby Smart obviously being there for a very long time, and then you got the first-time head coaches with TCU and Lincoln Riley in the transfer portal there over at USC. And you got a chance to see the Heisman Trophy winner possibly win a national championship. So that's as somebody who loves college football, you just want to see the best players out there, and I think we got that.
All right, Mike, what about you, dude?
I am most interested by what happened at the game. Michigan, like you said, running all over Ohio State, especially to close out that second half. We saw this loss last year prompt Ohio State to do a lot of soul searching, right? They ended up going and making a change at D coordinator and bringing over Jim Knowles and all the things that he had done in Oklahoma State. They went and brought a different offensive line coach in from UCLA, and we got the same results. We got the same team that looked like they got physically dominated in the second half of this game. And so we know Ryan Day is still a great coach. We know that Ohio State is still one of the elite programs in college football, but now they've got a Michigan problem, and a Michigan problem becomes a Big Ten championship problem, becomes a college football playoff problem. And how they go about solving that after all the tinkering they already did this past offseason, and in a year where you're going to lose another NFL quarterback, is going to fascinate me for one of the premier programs in the country.
Now it is time for everyone's favorite time of this segment. It is Gojo Rose time, people. What person, place, or thing, we're looking for a noun here, receives your rose this week? Go ahead, Mikey.
I am actually going to give this rose to anyone who posted our show in the top of their Spotify Wraps coming up today. I've seen all those making the rounds. We are a new podcast. We just started in May. The fact that we would be in anyone's top 5 right now for minutes listened is a huge testament to you. Yes, you, anyone who decided to let us into your ears.
Thank you.
Over the course of this year. So thank you to everyone who's checked in and listened in 2022. We really appreciate it. We're going to try and keep, making something that is worth your time and worth you listening. But we appreciate everyone who's gotten in on the ground floor already.
Wow. What a grateful host. What a good human being you are, dude. We love stuffing you inside our ears. Brandon, who does your rose go to this week?
I got to stay with the eargasms and say Drake. unfortunately. I wasn't proud of this. I'm an Apple Music guy, so I didn't get my Spotify Wrap, but they do a little replay action, and I found out that I spent last year listening to 1,813 minutes of Drake, and that's a lot. And I'm not proud of it, but I'm coming here to let you guys know that I'm being vulnerable in this moment. But Drake deserves my rose today.
Wow. Bro, you listen to that much? I listened to 8,430 minutes of Taylor Swift.
I was just going to say what your minutes could be with Taylor Swift. Like, Brandon, look at his face. Dude, Brandon, you can't be surprised. You know he's one of the biggest Swifties on this planet. Look at that.
8,000 minutes.
This is I spent 7,000 minutes listening to music alone. What do you mean? Like, I'm not.
But it means get your weight up.
Yeah,
I
dude.
listen to more Taylor Swift than you listen to music.
Yeah, that's saying something about you, sir.
Oh, I love our dysfunctional family. Farewell, my sweet chinchillas. We'll see you guys next week. Keep jamming out to whatever you jam out. Yeah, I love you too. We're not done talking football here, though, on the Sweat, people. We have an AFC Championship rematch on the slate as the Bengals host the Chiefs this week. Can Joe Burrow and company go toe-to-toe with the KC offense? Which side has more to prove here? We get our football panel to weigh in next. All right, we'll keep the football talk alive and well right now. Let's do some over-unders, looking at some totals on the DK Sportsbook for all the games this week. I think the camera just went out, Billy. No, and now it is back. We have DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, Pierce Dietrich, and Julian Edlow here to help us out. We're going to start with this Kansas City at Cincinnati game, guys. 52.5 last time I checked. Jules, T. Higgins. If you listened to our last segment with the Gojo boys, calling Jamar Chase a glizzy gobbler after Chase was caught sucking down not one, but 2 hot dogs there in the sideline without condiments. So absolutely dry dogs. Team chemistry and morale is at an all-time high for the Bengals. You want to go over or under this 52.5 point total?
Yeah, not much analysis on the dry dogs, but I do have some analysis on the total. It's been bet up. It opened around 51, as you would expect with 2 offenses like this. But you look at the Chiefs. You know, both of these teams are a little bit under 500 in terms of over unders. But the Chiefs have been going under at home. They're 1-5 to the total at home, but they're 4-1 to the over on the road. Whereas the Bengals, they've been an under team on the road as well, 2-4-1, but they're 2-2 at home when it comes to totals. So that's the only positive trend I can find towards the over. Honestly, I think this one has moved a little too much. It went through the key number of 52 when we're talking totals. I think that I would lean under in this one, particularly with the move so far.
All right, Jeff, what do you think here, man? Now sitting at 53 on the DK Sportsbook.
Oh.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be dead honest. The bet right now is just to take the Cincinnati Bengals to win this game. All the public money coming in on the Chiefs. That's the bet I like for this game. But even with the total moving, and I agree with Julian. I mean, the time to get on the over here was when it was at 51 or whatever. I'm going to lean over here as well. The Bengals, and it's a great road stat. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs since the beginning of 2020, 14-8 hitting overs on the road. It's a team that just plays a little faster pace. Their defense just doesn't perform as well on the road. And you've just got a Cincinnati Bengals offense on the other side. When you give Joe Burrow time to operate, I mean, he is going to just pick apart the other team. You've got Jamar Chase coming back. So I see the Bengals winning this game, but I do see them putting up points here. And I think that's just going to put Patrick Mahomes in a place where he's going to have to play at a faster pace, which is never a bad thing for points. So I think this one probably ends up hitting the over, even at this 52.5, 53 point. Obviously, the time to get on was earlier, but I'm still going to lean over here and dive in with the public.
All right, so Pierce being ticked up to 53, does that change your opinion at all here?
Yeah, it definitely makes it harder to go with the over, and the public is on the over, and I think I'm going to side with the squares in this spot just based on the trends that Julian's mentioned, the trends that Jeff's mentioned. Kansas City, it's not just some random trend. When Kansas City goes on the road, their defense struggles a little bit.
Yep.
They don't turn into a bad defense, but the home field advantage in Kansas City at Arrowhead is real. And when they get on the road, they just don't play quite as well. And in response, like Jeff alluded to, Mahomes and Reed, they step their game up and they put points on the board. I don't see a scenario where the Bengals are going to completely shut down Mahomes and Andy Reid and this offense. Although this offense hasn't looked that great this year, it looked that great last week. They're going to get points on the board. And we expect this game to be close. You look at what Cincinnati's doing this year. They're absolutely on fire at the moment. They've covered 8 times in the last 9 games. They've won 7 of their last 9 games at home. They've only played 3 home games in the last 9 games, which is surprising. And in those 3 home games, they've won each game and they covered the spread in each game. So we expect it to be close. I think there's going to be a lot of points.
Yeah, you nailed it with the Chiefs defense struggling on the road, because in their 5 road games this season, 4 times the over has hit for Kansas City. Then we got a cat fight here cooking in Detroit, guys. Lions hosting America's team. That's the Jacksonville Jaguars. The total 51.5 on the DK Sportsbook. Go ahead, Jules. I know how happy you are about the Jags' recent success.
All I really care about in this game is that the Jags lose, because I need that win total under to cash. But we're talking totals here. Another one that has moved a couple points to the over, opened 49.5. This one I agree with the move, and I will still play the over at this point. We've mentioned on the show the Jags unders at home and that trend, and they're 1-5 to the over at home so far this season. But they've gone over in 4 of 5 road games. And where is the perfect road game to go over? That is at Detroit. Now, they're only 4-2 to the over at home so far, but that defense just is not good. We've seen that in many cases this season. And Jacksonville's offense, they found something towards the end of that Baltimore game, and maybe they can carry a little bit of momentum into this one. Detroit playing indoors at home, we know that offense can move it. So this one, I will say the move is correct, and I would still play the over here between the Jags and Lions.
Hey, Jeff, Doug Peterson said this morning he's optimistic Travis Etienne will play. He's going to go through walkthrough portions of practice, officially listed as day-to-day, so I'm not quite sure if that'll impact your decision here.
No, I mean, look, running back, they've got decent backups there. I mean, again, JaMychal Hasty had a really good game. And again, I'm going to lean with – we're going to go with the public here. I looked at this game initially, and you think, we're going to rely on Jared Goff to take us to the over here. But, you look at how these two teams are built. The offenses here are both above average in terms of offensive DVOA in the pass and the run game. And then you've got weak defenses on both sides. Detroit really isn't good at anything on defense. Jacksonville can stop the run a little bit, but their pass defense is bottom 5 in terms of defensive DVOA. Detroit likes to push the pace as well. They're 7-4 at hitting overs here. I think with the way Trevor Lawrence is playing better, yeah, we got to lean over. We got a nice cushy dome environment for T-Law to keep pushing the pace. He looked really good in the last quarter of that game. It could be a little bit of letdown here, but again, I think you've got 2 offenses that are just better than the defenses they're going to be facing against, and 2 offenses that are coming in with some good confidence here. So I'm going to lean over again, 51.5. I think this line will move too. So if you like the over here, this isn't as public a bet as the Kansas City Cincinnati game is, I think you've still got some room here to be hitting overs at 51.5.
I mean, Pierce, maybe this lofty total has more to do with the defenses than the offenses here, because I believe no defense has allowed more points per game this season than Detroit. And then you look at Jacksonville's defense, they've given up more than 900 yards the last 2 games.
Sure, that's part of it, but let's give some credit to the offense as well. How dare Jeff Ulrich besmirch the good name of Jared Goff? Yeah, we know the defenses are awful. The Lions allow more points than the other team. But the Lions offense under Jared Goff has scored 27 points or more in their last 3 games, 4 of their last 5. If you take out 2 duds against New England, a really good defense, and then you also take out their loss to Dallas, and they average 30 points per game. That would be good enough for the best in football. We're only taking out 2 tough games. The Lions can score. Jacksonville's defense really aren't world beaters. They gave up, 27 points last week to a Baltimore offense that has been struggling. So Detroit's going to get their points. Jacksonville as well, I don't think we give them nearly enough credit. They put up 28 points last week against Baltimore. This is an easier matchup. In 7 of their losses this season, it's been by 1 score or fewer, so I imagine they're going to be right there next to the Lions, keeping pace. I think you're going to get a lot of fireworks in this game.
Jeff, a lot of eyes are going to be on Houston this weekend, not for anything the Texans have been doing or will be doing, but because Deshaun Watson will be making his season debut for the Browns against his former team. Do you believe he could lead this offense to an over, which is currently at 47 on the DK Sportsbook?
That's the one I'm going to lean under on. You've got 2 contrasting styles here, obviously. I mean, Cleveland has been pushing, just allowing a lot of yards against, pushing towards the over 7-4. But then you got the Houston team on the other side, plays at a slow pace, doesn't score, has a 3rd-string quarterback. They're 4-7 to the overs. I think realistically, you're going to see Cleveland come out with just a slightly conservative game plan, probably run the ball. I think both these teams ultimately are going to be wanting to run the ball a lot. And it's not like there's good rush defenses on either side, but I think it's just going to suck enough clock off. And I also just think that, who knows what Houston's offense is going to be. They could just be a disaster again in the red zone. Obviously, we got the rust factor with Deshaun Watson. I'm going to lean under on this one at 47.
Jules, what do you think?
Yeah, we can kind of throw trends and numbers out the window with this one, with Deshaun Watson playing his first game in 2 years.
Yeah.
It's a revenge spot for both sides. I'm sure Watson wants to beat his former team. I'm sure that the Texans want to put together a good game plan and beat their former quarterback, although, he last played for that team so long ago. It's not like he has that many teammates there. Anyway, I would lean under. We've seen these type of revenge games to a degree recently. Brady did not cover in Foxborough. Russell Wilson lost in Seattle to start the season. I think this one could be a little bit more of a grinder than we expect, so I would lean under here. But yeah, Jeff's right about the teams running the ball. The Texans' run defense is dreadful. Give me a Chubb rushing prop over. I can't believe he's the 5th priced running back on this DFS slate. And if you want a teaser leg, I do think that the Browns ultimately win this game, and you can get them down to -1.
All right, Pierce, bring us home here, dude.
Yeah, we got to go under. I don't understand this line at all. Watson hasn't played in ages, and rust is a thing. Chemistry is a thing, and home field is also a thing. I don't think we're going deep enough into this revenge storyline, not really from the Watson perspective and not from the perspective of the Houston team, but the city of Houston hasn't had much to cheer for. That crowd is going to be absolutely nuts. It's not like that Watson he's the old quarterback that wanted out of town. There's a little bit of baggage there as he left town. I don't think the H-Town is very happy with this guy. This might be one of the more rowdiest environments we've ever seen, and it's a quarterback that hasn't played in a while, that hasn't played with these players. I just don't understand how they're going to get near this number. And then you just factor in the fact that Houston scores the 2nd fewest points in the league, so this thing's going well under this.
Guys, we are out of time. You both, or all 3 of you, did a tremendous job. Washington at the Giants is a big game too, but with a low total, 40.5, second lowest on the board, which brings us to our next point. Before we head to break here, want to remind everyone, all our users in Maryland, more specifically, that DraftKings is live in your state. So Maryland residents, download, sign up for DraftKings today. You will receive $200 in free bets instantly. So coming up here, football is life. The World Cup continues in Qatar. with 4 more games today, 4 more games tomorrow. We're going to look ahead to Thursday's game next. Can Germany come out of the basement in Group E to kind of sneaky into the knockout round? We will discuss with AJ and Chinmay after this. All right, here's what's going down at the World Cup today. So we got a couple matches in progress. So the Aussies currently up 1-0 against Denmark. Tunisia, I believe, is up 1-0 against France. Okay, I have confirmation in my ear from producer Tom. So if Australia wins, they're through with France. Is that correct there, AJ Scholes?
That would be correct. Yes, it would be Australia and France moving on if these results hold.
All right, so Chinmay Vaidya of DK Nation, you are also here. It's good to have you guys here. Football is life. We're going to look ahead right now to Thursday's games on tap at the World Cup. Huge one here, AJ, between Spain and Japan. So Japan, what are the chances you're giving them to topple heavily favored Spain here? You got a bet you like in this game?
I mean, anything's possible at this point in this World Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, we got Tunisia beating France. Now, I know it wasn't France's ideal starting 11. They rested some guys, but they've put them on the pitch at this point. Mbappe's in, Griezmann's in, and they're still not getting that equalizing goal. So anything's possible, but ultimately, I think I'm favoring Spain in this one. I think it'll be a relatively open game either way. Japan pushing to get a winner, especially considering there's a chance they could draw against Spain and it still wouldn't be enough. So I would expect we'll see some goals in this one. And I like taking the total of over 3.5 at plus 185 here. I expect we'll see some games or some goals in that game.
Chinmay, what's the move here on the DK Sportsbook? So Spain wins the group with a victory or a tie.
Yeah, Spain is not actually through 100% yet, and that gives me confidence in taking Spain minus 1.5 goals, which comes in at plus 110. I think Spain go hard in this game. Japan obviously fighting for a spot as well. This is the chaos group of the World Cup so far, and frankly, a lot of them have been chaos groups, but really tomorrow, this is the one that you really want to pay attention to. I think Spain go hard in this game. I like them minus 1.5 goals. You get plus value there, so you're still taking the favorites, but you're getting a little bit of better value with the goal line.
Shouldn't we expect chaos from the group of death like every time this comes around, Chinmay?
Yeah, and we don't always know what the group of death is, and this was tabbed as one of them. But several other groups have also been quite close, and this is the beauty of the World Cup. You never really know what's going to happen until you lace them up and play the game.
All right, AJ, Croatia, Belgium. You like Croatia coming out on top of Group F here? I believe both teams are around plus 170 to win.
Yeah, I don't want to touch this one with a 10-foot pole in terms of trying to pick a winner here. Obviously, Croatia coming off that resounding 4-1 win over Canada, but Belgium in their golden generation just got frankly embarrassed considering they're favorites to win the group by Morocco, so they could come back just fired up here. I would rather just take a couple player props here, including Batshuayi to score, comes in at plus 110. Andre Kramarak to score plus 250. And then, of course, if we get this prop on the DK Sportsbook, I'll take Kevin De Bruyne to get an assist in this one as well. I don't want to have to pick a winner here, so I'm going to just look for a couple of different guys potentially to score.
All right, Chime, what's the bet? We're looking at two teams need positive results to ensure that they get through to the next round of competition.
I'm with AJ on this one in that I'm probably not going to go with the game result here. These teams have been so up and down in this group. Belgium came out very flat in their last match, and it's very hard to back either team here. Croatia really woke up against Canada after giving up, frankly, a lazy goal in the opening minutes. They looked like they had no clue what they were doing on that play. I like Croatia and Belgium. If you parlay under 1.5 goals for each team, that's coming in at around plus 110, plus 120 on the DK Sportsbook. So that's a good one. I think this will be low scoring. Under 2.5 total goals is coming in at minus 125. Not terrible value there. It's not plus money, but it's better than, the minus 150, minus 160 that it typically is. I like this to be a low scoring, tight contest. And frankly, I don't know who's going to win. And even the odds makers don't know. It's an even line right now. These two teams have been so inconsistent that, again, anything can happen here. Would not shock me if Belgium wins by a heavy margin. Would not shock me if Croatia wins by a heavy margin. This is a tough one to call. So I'm going to stay away from a game result.
Okay, so Chinmay, how tough is it to call this Morocco-Canada one? I know Canada has been eliminated. I believe they were the first team to be eliminated here, but they did just score their first goal in World Cup history the last time out. Morocco will win the group with a victory and a Croatia draw or a loss here, but think about Canada. How bad would they want to be playing spoiler here? What's the bet?
Anytime you step on a World Cup field, you're going to play hard.
Yeah.
So Canada's effort won't be questioned. However, you got to think that their spirit is a little bit down after giving up, 4 unanswered goals to Croatia to end their World Cup qualifying hopes for the knockout round. So I'm going to go with Morocco on the money line here, plus 115. I think they get the job done. And I even like Canada under 0.5 goals, comes in at plus 170. The history does not favor Canada scoring in a World Cup match. I think Morocco get the job done here. Those are two bets that I like in this match.
AJ, what's the move here?
Well, Chimay is absolutely correct in the fact that Canada has not looked super impressive, especially from a goal-scoring aspect. But I actually don't mind trying to get some value out of them here. I think they come out hard, playing for pride here. I like the double chance with Canada and draw at minus 135, possibly even looking at the draw no bet. You can get Canada plus 150. I think that's pretty good value. And I think Morocco's been punching above their weight class here with draws against Croatia and wins against Belgium. I just don't see Canada going quietly into the night on this one. I think they come out hard and can earn some sort of result in this one.
All right, Costa Rica taking on Germany. AJ, give me your bet.
Like, I just don't see how this German team doesn't come out absolutely firing into this one. They have to win here, and that might not even be enough depending on the outcome of the other game. They need goals, and lots of them. I don't hate taking the total of over 4.5 here at plus 180. I like Thomas Mueller to score at plus 125, Serge Gnabry at minus 105 to score. And honestly, I'll take the first half total goals for Germany at over 1.5, comes in at minus 115. I think they come out absolutely flying to try and save this World Cup.
Yeah, Chime, Germany needs a big win here against Costa Rica.
They do. They need a big win, and even that might not be enough depending on other results. They don't control their own destiny. And we saw what Spain did to Costa Rica in the opening match. I'll take Germany over 3.5 team goals, comes in at plus 125. If you really want to go big, over 4.5 goals comes in at plus 295. We know what Germany has to do. Germany knows what Germany has to do. They have to score lots of goals in this game, and even that might not be enough. I like taking the over on Germany's team goals, go big or go home on this one.
All right, dudes, you guys rock. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on The Sweat. We got one final block to go, one final break to go. We got some PGA Tour DFS Hero World Challenge coming up with Jeff and Len right after this. Let's get right after it. It's our PGA Tour segment every Wednesday here with Len Hochberg and Jeffrey Ulrich, looking at the Hero World Challenge. 20-man field here, so the DFS conversation. Quite easy this week, or maybe not. What about the guys all in this 10K range? Who's worth rostering, Jeff?
I mean, they're all worth rostering. These are all like the top 30 players in the world. So I'm not going to talk badly about anyone, but from a DFS perspective, we'll talk a little bit of game theory here. I mean, I think that there's a very, very good chance you're going to see Jon Rahm be the outright, just highest owned player by quite a bit this week. It's going to create opportunity. People be looking to either go with Rahm or a more balanced approach with Tony Finau. That's going to leave Justin Thomas at 10,200. Perhaps even just a little bit underowned, even in a field of only 20 players. I think Justin Thomas is an elite iron player. He's first in around the green stats over the last 50 rounds. He grew up in the state of Florida. He knows how to play on the wind. T5 at this event last year. I think Justin Thomas is fine. I mean, you've got just as much upside in terms of win equity as you do with any of the other top players, and you get lower ownership. I wouldn't be put off by Thomas just because of a slow fall series. There's every chance he comes in here to Tigers events well rested, decides he wants to grab a win here at the end of the year, and just, shuts the door on this field. So 10,200, that's where I'd be looking for big tournaments on DraftKings this week.
Len, Scheffler, Rahm, Thomas, all north of 10K. Might be tough to differentiate yourself in a 20-man field, but can you do it here by selecting one of these three guys?
Yeah, I think that not only I do like Jon Rahm. I think that, that is certainly the chalk, and he certainly will be highly owned. But more importantly, what I want to tell everybody is you could pick two of these guys if you want. This field is so small, no one's making the cut. You could pick two $10,000 guys. Thomas gives you a little more flexibility. You could still maybe dip and get an $8,000 guy and a $7,000 guy and two 6,000s. This isn't Jim Herman out of 156. This is, Kevin Kisner's at the bottom, Corey Connors. These are good players. If they finish, they move up just the leaderboard a little bit, they could justify their price. So I think this is definitely a week to go very high and very low.
Well, like in the mid-range department, for example, you don't see Jordan Spieth at $7,500 very often. So who stands out to you in this group, Len?
Yeah, I think Spieth is fairly priced. I don't think I will be playing him this week. He's been off for a number of months, and he's got the big match coming up next week. I don't know which one he'll. A lot of guys treat this week as a vacation and free cash and free world ranking points. He might be leaning toward next week, but he's been idle a bit. Tommy Fleetwood is just underneath him at 7,300. I think he'll be thrilled to be here. He hasn't been here in 5 years, playing well, and putting better, back in the top 25 in the world. I like him. And if you want to jump up even a little bit higher, because, there aren't too many guys in the sevens, Matt Fitzpatrick, same thing, 8,300. Really good fit on this course for him, playing well into the fall. He never slowed down after the U.S. Open. Those would be my more middle range picks.
I mean, hell, Jeff, it is weird to see like a Colin Morikawa at $6,900.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got some weird prices on guys this week. I mean, even like Sam Burns down there, a guy we typically see often like pushing for like 9,800, even in like good fields. So yeah, I really like Fleetwood the most. I think that you've got a player broke through for his first win in over 2 years on the DP World Tour in South Africa about 3 weeks ago. That's big. That's huge for his confidence. We've seen him too play throughout the fall. Like his putter was going, and like his around the green game was good, and it looks like the ball striking is starting to come back a little bit for Tommy Fleetwood. This course too has really been good to links players. I mean, you look at like the players who have won, Hovland, Rahm. These are good links players. This is a very linksy style setup. Tommy Fleetwood, terrific on the links. I really like him this week. I think he's got a chance to potentially be like the underdog play. And I like him on the DraftKings Sportsbook too. And you mentioned Morikawa. I mean, like 6,900, you just can't not play him. I mean, at this point, he played a little bit better his last time out in Mexico, 15th there. Is the putter potentially going to hold him back? Yeah, but he's only 6,900. If the putter shows up and you don't have him, I mean, like you're done. I mean, he's only 6,900. So yeah, those are the two players I'm really looking at in this range. I think they're both just good plays for a little bit different reasons. But again, you mentioned like the salaries are just kind of a little bit unbelievable this week.
Guys, less than a minute to go and show your favorite DFS play for the Hero World Challenge. Bring us home, Len.
Yeah, my favorite play is going to be Kevin Kisner down at the
Woo!
bottom, $6,000. He's not missing the cut. You know, he's played this tournament before, 7th 1 year, 12th. If he does that again at 6,000, that is a great price, and you could spend your money elsewhere. Fleetwood, Finau, Rahm, other guys I like, but don't be afraid of the low sixes this week.
Jeff.
I'm gonna go with Fleetwood, and again, like much like Len, you know, mixing and matching the top guys is easy this week because it's such a small field. But you're gonna have to nail those value plays. That's what's gonna pull you through. And I think Fleetwood just coming in with lots of confidence, like Len said, gonna be happy to be here.
All right, guys, that's a show. Jeff, we could dive into this a little more tonight on a Wednesday edition of the Slate, 5 o'clock. I believe Nick Fryer will be with us, so we'll see everyone then. And I know, dude. I feel the same exact way. But we will also be back here live in studio. Jesse should get a rabies shot by then, so we'll see you tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock Eastern time.